Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. We'll just give everyone a minute or so to filter into the room, and then we'll begin. Unfortunately, I have not learned an instrument in the last week, so I'm just going to sit here and stare at you while we wait. Okay. I think we've got everyone moving in here, so we're going to get rolling. Good afternoon. I'm your host, Steve Bassnett, and along with my co-host, Aaron Marsden, I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of CANASA and Security Canada to our weekly online learning session. While many are stuck at home, we thought this would be a good time to deliver some product and service knowledge that will be beneficial when we're all back to work. I would like to say a special thank you to Axis for their support and sponsoring today's session. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Gavin Daly of the Professional Services Group at Axis Communications. Gavin has more than 14 years of demonstrated experience in the electronic security industry. Joining Axis in 2011, Gavin manages the Professional Services Group, PSG, providing technical expertise and personalized advice for both internal and external customers. Gavin's industry insight and experience provides value and practical expertise to ensure customers achieve full realization of their surveillance needs. Gavin holds a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering, is Cisco CCNA certified, and has an Axis certified professional designation from Axis Communications. Feel free to type any questions you may have for Gavin during the session into the chat window, and he will respond during the Q&A portion roughly 20 minutes from now. I'll now turn the session over to Gavin. Welcome, Gavin, and thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Steve. And I'm just going to share my screen here. 1 second. Okay. Well, thank you for the great introduction, Steve. And first and foremost, I hope everyone and their loved ones are safe, healthy during these unprecedented times. Secondly, I'd like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, which focuses on Axis Professional Services. As Steve talked about already, I've been in the industry a little over 14, close to 15 years now, running the Pro Services Group in Canada for the last 4 or 5 years. A little fun fact, yes, I've been in the industry a long time, but before that I started in the electrical trades. So I felt the pain as an integrator, if you will, running cables, mostly on the electrical trade side, conduits, but really got a taste of the early stage of the industry before going back to school to study engineering and kind of going down an IT channel, and ultimately been with Axis for the last 9 years. I am married, I have 4 kids and 2 dogs. So during this kind of a lockdown of sorts, I definitely am feeling the pain, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again and getting back to a sort of normal lifestyle, or as normal as possibly can be. Just a quick agenda for the next 20 minutes. We're going to cover a couple of things, really who we are, what we do, some examples and some use cases along the way. Of course, we want to make sure we leave some time at the end. We've got about 10 minutes or so to answer questions. We'll be happy to field those at the end. And I'd like to kind of start off with who we are. And this is a snapshot of the team. We're 7 people in total today, hopefully 10 by the end of the summer. And most of you out there in the channel, and for those of you on the phone that are maybe integrators, end users, consultants, will typically interfacing a lot with our sales team primarily. So you'll be interfacing with the Axis regional sales managers and the business development kind of team. Most of my team were about 5 to 20 years in the industry, mostly coming from technical channels, engineering, IT channels. So as you can see, we're mostly consisting of field sales engineers, solution engineers, and we also have technical training. We formed the group officially in 2015 in Canada, and this was an Axis first globally, in order to help support the channel, the growing portfolio, less from a sales standpoint, but more from a pre-sales technical standpoint. And what I'll say about our team is we have a great team, in my opinion. We're very solutions and outcome focused. We're less about trying to focus on selling you just products as opposed to solutions that are going to work for your application. And what is it we actually do here? Well, we like to consider ourselves an extension of your team, not a replacement of your team. So our mission is not to go out and replace what an integrator or a distributor or a consultant does, but rather offer some additional assistance in finding and delivering the right solutions. And in order to talk about that, there's four primary services that we offer, also known as pillars. First of which is advisory services, which is a lot of early stage, preliminary kind of design requests that we get involved in, conversations, will this work? Not necessarily a deep dive, it could be a high level conversation at that point. The second is design and validation. And this is where we just want to make sure that we're confident that the solution is going to work. Is it something that we have available today, or is it possibly something we need to develop internally, or maybe even bring in a technology partner to offer this as a complete solution? The third is develop, where we may have to create a solution that did not exist before. And it could be a client looking for something, as we say, beyond the data sheet. So everybody knows Axis as being the kind of IP camera company primarily, and that's safe to say the bread and butter of what we do. But a lot of times there might be a product where, hey, it's 90% there or it's 95% there. Somebody just wants a small tweak, or they need a little bit of a different flavor, just tailored to a specific end user's needs. And that's where we're able to come in with these development services. And the fourth, the last, these transformation services, where this will range from things like migration of an existing system to maybe even things like implementing cybersecurity policies and even life cycle management over a long period of time. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth of what this actually means and why is it relevant to you. The first is the advisory services, and as a lot of you know, we have a very large portfolio, but we also have a huge ecosystem of technology partners in both hardware and software. And we realize that your systems may not even be 100% end-to-end access products all the way, and that's okay. But sometimes you may even have a competitor's platform, you want to integrate access products to it. And what I'll say is that we have a full lab available in Toronto. We also have other labs in various parts of North America and in our head office in Sweden. And what we like to do is we like to test out and verify that those solutions are going to work, as well as, if need be, provide any additional documentation to support the solution. We also will make recommendations on how to optimize your product for best performance. An example might be you want to capture license plates at night, or maybe you're trying to use video analytics to achieve a specific goal, and we can help. So if any of these questions up here may sound familiar to you, then you're definitely not alone. These are the types of questions we are getting essentially every day, multiple times a day. And if it's something that we're not able to deliver, we'll definitely be the first one to tell you. And the advisory services really came about largely due to what I'll say is a drastically increasing portfolio of products. And with that tends to come more system complexity too. And for example, as I said earlier, everyone knows Axis as the IP camera company, but now we have audio solutions. This introduces new challenges and design requirements. Of course, we have the 2N products, which you guys may have saw the webinar last week, which was done by my colleague Mike on the 2N side. But now people are looking to integrate these as part of their systems. And this is where my team does a lot of the pre-sale kind of design work. Of course, then access control and other inputs, outputs, modules and relays, radar detectors, and even more exciting things coming this year. Of course, analytics, which is a very hot topic, especially right now. People are looking to deploy solutions. At Axis alone, we have over 20 different analytics, and it can be sometimes a little cumbersome or maybe confusing as to which ones do we need to use and how do we place the cameras and what kind of distances are they going to work with. And we do a lot of this kind of work as well. Of course, we have peripheral equipment, additional server switches and extra pieces that are coming as part of this solution. And of course, as everyone knows, Axis as an IP camera company, there's over 250 different cameras on the portfolio today. And even for those of you that have used Axis for a long time, some of you may be new to Axis. It can be a little daunting to look at such a huge portfolio, and we want to try to help narrow that down to what are the most relevant products for your application. So switching over a little bit to talk about design, because we do a lot of work here. This is where we do things like we'll help with system layouts, we'll take floor plans and ultimately try to turn that into creation of a bill of materials. And at that time, if there's any additional documentation required, we can help support you there. When it comes to this design validation, there's essentially three primary tools that myself and our team uses to support those of you out there in the channel. And these are combinations of in-house tools developed by Axis, but also industry standard tools. So in-house will be Site Designer, but more industry standard tools like Visio, AutoCAD, and Revit. And what you'll see here on the left is an example of what we would call a CAD typical for a pole mount, PTZ with a security cabinet, something you could follow, very detailed drawings. And on the right-hand side is a visualization from Revit, sorry. And most of you probably know this, but most new builds in North America and around the world being designed by architects are using Revit. So it's not like you can go and do a site walk or some sort of proof of concept. These projects may be years out. So we use Revit a lot to try to get accurate product selections and placements and give you that 3D visualization. So you can show here's exactly what you're going to see and make the right selections at that time. And then lastly on this one, an example of a typical wiring diagram in a media converter cabinet. So a lot of pieces in there, little accessory pieces, a lot of little parts that can catch you out when you're putting a system together. And we just want to make sure that we provide you with as much information as possible to make sure everything's going to work. And still on the topic of design, as I mentioned before, we'll work with 2D layouts. We'll take Google Earth images, floor plans, PDFs. I've even had stuff literally scratched on the back of a napkin sent in. We'll try to work with whatever you can give us, as much accurate information as we get in the design, the better off we'll be and the better off you will be. But really what we want to do is we just want to make sure that when the layout is complete, we will take that for you and help turn that into a bill of materials that includes the right products, the quantities. We also, of course, want to take into account industry best practices when we're putting a system together, whether you're trying to get facial recognition or it's identification, or you want to capture a license plate in low light. We also want to make sure you have all the correct accessories, servers, the switches, maybe there's IO modules, understanding how the products are being installed. Example might be, are they going on the corner of a building? Are you trying to recess cameras into a drop ceiling? Because I know this, there's nothing worse than finding out on the day of an install that you're missing a very important accessory that could ultimately hold up the entire job. Or worse, maybe that wasn't factored into the original quote, and now all of a sudden there's cost incurred because of it. Of course, because we're dealing a lot with network video, we want to make sure that we account for the bandwidth and storage calculations. So whether it's days, months, years of retention time that you're looking for, we can assist in the calculations for you. Sometimes you guys might want to do it yourself and you just want to bounce some ideas off someone on my team, and we're absolutely happy to help you there. The third service or pillar, as we call it, is development and customizations. And in the majority of applications that tend to be security centric, the products that we have tend to fit the bill out of the box. But as I mentioned before, sometimes there are those extra things people need. We're able to leverage our own research and development teams, as well as our thousands of technology partners, both hardware and software, not just in Canada, but around the globe. And I figured it's probably good to go through one such example because this is something we see a lot of need for and we've been getting a lot of requests for. And through our pro services team, we've been able to put this together. And essentially this is as you can see here, occupancy control solution. So a lot of buildings that are now starting to reopen, or possibly some retailers that have stayed open during this time and are having issues with flow control and how many people are coming in and out. We do have a solution that we're able to support, which consists of a people counter on board that is counting how many people are coming in and out, and then giving you an accurate summation of the current occupancy in the building. From there, you can decide what you want to do with that information. Most commonly, people want to put up some kind of digital signage, a kind of a stop and go, or they want to integrate it with some maybe access control or some kind of signaling, but some kind of visual indicator that lets people know, yes, it's safe to come in, or no, don't come in. Here's another typical use case involving some digital signage, but you can also see where other peripherals could be tied in also. Another screenshot, this is kind of what the occupancy looks like if you were to look at it real time. You've got your counts of the in and out, the current occupancy, and then some additional information like the average visit time, which may or may not be useful information for some of you. Based on that, we would then trigger an event to show a limit reached and also show how many people are currently inside the building. And that would be on the public facing side. Of course, then we're able to leverage our partners and acquisitions such as 2N, where maybe this is an office building and you want to have some kind of custom message display on your access control or your intercom system. We're able to also display stop and go messaging on the 2N Helios device. And a lot of what my team does when we're putting these solutions together, we don't just want to focus on the now or the today. If someone's going to spend a lot of time and money investing in access, we want to make sure that there's at least some kind of future proofing of the system and that the end user is going to get more usage out of it. And for example, on the occupancy solution, well, today, yes, you want people counting information, but what about tomorrow? Maybe you want to use it for marketing promotional material or digital signage, or you just want to tie that into some other event action system. And the last service that we spend a lot of time in, these transformation services, as we call them, where it talks about system migration. And it's not as common anymore, migrating from analog to IP, but most of the market seems to have converged. But we do still get pulled into these systems where they are looking to change over to IP. But a lot of cybersecurity type implementation, how do I lock down the system? How do I harden it? It comes down to things like implementing HTTPS, 802.1x, which some partners may or may not be comfortable with. And we have a lot of extra help that we can give you in rolling that out. And of course, life cycle planning. What if you have a system with 5 cameras? What if it's 1,000 access devices? And you want to know, when is the warranty going to expire? When is the product going to end support? And then what do I do to replace it? So we do a lot of that life cycle planning side of things. Here's an example of a typical report that we might run using some of the tools at our disposal, where you can see on the left which products are getting discontinued, when the support is getting phased out, and then of course, when does the warranty expire? And that can be very useful information to take and start planning for when is your next potential upgrade happening. What are the right models to use? So we do a lot of that kind of work on a pretty regular basis, I will say. And then the last point I want to highlight is what we call on and off-site services. And there's a couple of things that we do here. First is the customized trainings. Oh, there we go. The customized trainings, where we have these standard academy classes that a lot of you are familiar with, the fundamentals training, the boot camps, the certifications, which have been around for many, many years and are one of the major reasons that Access is as successful as it is today. But a lot of times people want a little extra. They want some additional help. They want some customized training that's a little more tailored to their specific site and their specific needs. And we do offer that as a classroom-based training, which is currently only on virtual till it's safe to get back in the classroom. We can even go on site and certify integrators if need be. The other will be on and off site services related to product demonstrations, proof of concepts, maybe some site walks. So for example, Access is coming out with some new analytics. We've got new products like radar detectors and a whole bunch of other things coming. And maybe you just want a peace of mind and make sure that this works and that the customer is happy with it. And we're more than happy to assist you with that as well. And on that note, I will end and say thank you very much. I'll pass that back to Steve and we'll be happy to take any questions from you guys.
Thank you, Gavin. That was great. If anyone has any questions, please type them into your Q&A window now. Now it's time for the Steve's reading comprehension part of this. First question, Gavin, are these services available in Canada only?
They're not strictly limited to Canada. Myself and my team, we operate predominantly in Canada, but if you have any cross-border projects or need help in the US or outside of that, even globally, we can offer that service globally. And I find Canada is a very innovative country and is highly regarded. We've often designed a lot of projects in Canada that may get delivered in other countries actually, but absolutely available outside of Canada.
Okay, thank you. Next question, where is your manufacturing base?
The global head office is in Sweden, in Lund. And that's predominantly where the R&D is located, and we do a lot of manufacturing there as well. But we do have manufacturing facilities all around the world, various parts of Asia and Europe. Really depends on which products we're looking at. We use what's called CLCs, central logistical centers, that are acting as the hubs and ultimately feed out the distribution channels from there.
Okay, thank you. Next question, if I have a system design and want to validate it, is that something Access will assist with?
Yes, absolutely. If you yourself have put a design together and you just want to maybe get peace of mind or get a second opinion on things, absolutely we can help. We're obviously very close to the Access portfolio, more than what you might be being on the outside, and we can make sure that things are going to work. So yeah, absolutely we can do that.
Great, thank you. And let's see, what happens if Access is unable to offer this solution?
If we can't do it, I mean, and that's why we obviously want to get engaged as early as possible and try to understand as many of the requirements as we can. So the more details you give us, the better. But if it's something that we feel we cannot deliver by ourselves, first thing we'll do is try to figure out, well, are there some partners of Access? We have a lot of technology partners on the software side, on the hardware side. And in the vast majority of times, whether it's not us, but a combination of the above, we likely can very much, probability that is that we'll be able to deliver the solution to you. But again, if we can't do it, we'll be the first to tell you that we don't think we can do it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Looks like all of the questions we have for today. So that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you for joining us. And once again, thank you to Gavin Daly and Access Communications for their support. At the close of this session, a link to register for next week's session will pop up. Please be sure to register. We look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, be well.